This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Well, it's literally nonstop. The relentless propaganda by Harry and Meghan clogging the airwaves with these documentaries being pumped out. Not so much in the US, but more specifically in the UK. Released yesterday, Channel 5 is back at it again with another pathetic excuse to double down on the lies and control the narrative in this psyops that actually, in my opinion, went sideways. Now, in this video, I don't plan on going through this documentary and criticizing or reviewing it. All I can say is more or less it's the same thing that we have been seeing from the rest of these Channel 5 documentaries. It's propaganda. And even though they are spinning Meghan's narratives, they are essentially normalizing the behavior. So take, for example, when they talk about the Oprah interview.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
It did the royal family enormous damage. Given what they were actually after, worldwide publicity and launching a nuclear weapon at the royal family, Oprah was a terrific success.
Now, the one thing that I found really savvy about this documentary is the use of language. So even though we know this Oprah interview was a complete train wreck, they're seeing it on the flip side as it being a success. And the justification is because this was their coming out party, essentially.
This interview was their calling card, a signal to the world that they had a story and they were ready to share it.
Sure, Meghan and Harry had a story to tell, but it was all about the timing of it to do maximum damage. And that's the part that they seem to just want to completely forget about. So I think it's extremely important that voices like mine and others continue to remind everyone that Harry and Meghan did this interview while Prince Philip lay dying in the hospital. They knew at the time that he didn't have much time left, but Meghan didn't care because she didn't get what she wanted, which was this half in, half out, and be able to monetize being a royal. What I don't like about these propaganda pieces is that they conveniently leave out the part of the amount of hatred that the royal family received in the remaining days that they had with Prince Philip on this earth.
I think at that time they were really trying to establish their names across the pond. Their first interview after leaving the family, I mean, a huge get for Oprah.
Like, I find this so gross that they're trying to normalize this. This interview was a huge gift for Oprah.
And then same thing for them, really. It's, look, our story is so important. This is the kind of platform that we're getting for it.
I feel like they gaslight the public intentionally because you can't be serious with this. Like, this story was more important than being respectful and allowing the royal family the time that they need in the final moments of Prince Philip's life. Harry and Meghan's bitching, whining, and moaning was more important. Get the fuck out of here with this. I'm sorry, Meghan, you're never going to normalize what you did on the Oprah interview, ever. There will be people who will always call you out for your bullshit until you acknowledge that what you did here was wrong. Lying about the royal family, accusing them of being racist, and then on top of it, which is the worst of all of this, is funding and supporting the very same people who amplified the chaos and hatred against the family. So not only did they have to deal with saying goodbye to a loved one, they also had to handle the threats that were now coming at them, jeopardizing their physical safety. The fallout and backlash from this interview was massive, so massive that Oprah had to pull this interview down and try and scrub it from the internet. So no, this was not a success as much as Meghan wants to spin it and try and normalize that they did the right thing. No, they did the wrong thing. And until they can apologize or acknowledge that it might not have been the best choice, we're going to continue to keep reminding them because this is not going to get swept under the rug as much as they are trying in these propaganda pieces. And this is just one example from this documentary. This whole thing is littered with this kind of BS. So what is really going on here with this Channel 5 UK network? This network has been pumping out these so-called truths for Meghan almost on a monthly basis. Same tired script, same shameless Jack Royston and sycophants who push this propaganda for Harry and Meghan. This latest garbage fire titled Meghan Markle Duchess for sale? Kicks off by ramming that tired fairy tale down our throats again. They're still screeching about Meghan being some kind of global Hollywood superstar, humanitarian, and influencer goddess. For those sitting in reality, we know that that was never the case. Meghan was a nobody, and Americans have been screaming this from the rooftops. But do these propagandists listen? No. They just keep shoveling the same shit that she was anything more than a schemer who snagged Prince Harry. That's all this woman was in charge to do. I mean, ask yourself this question in all of these documentaries being pumped out by Channel 5. Why is it that none of them talk about how horrible Meghan has been to her alleged family? This propaganda piece is no different. And these Channel 5 specials are starting to stink of an alternative agenda. It's like they're orchestrating the slow motion crash of this failed psyops. I've been saying it forever. This whole circus was about globalist meddling to keep Trump out in 2020. Disagree all you want, but King Charles and visibility into the liberal elite's plot to screw over the U.S. election, at bare minimum, had been through his son and what he was doing over here. I mean, think about it. Labor was neck deep in it in 2020, also in 2024. Take your pick. Throw in the ex-MI6 Christopher Steele and his fake dossier against Trump that was commissioned by the U.S. Democrats. Let's not forget the CCDH and a slew of other liberal UK meddlers like James Holt and its common sense Charles, with all his fancy intelligence access, could not be completely clueless and in the dark. Agenda 2030, let's not forget, is King Charles's pet project with the World Economic Forum, NATO, the United Nations, and WHO. And don't even get me started about the royal family's relationship with Barack Obama. Nobody talks about how Barack helped Starmer get into power with his so-called consultations. The UK, if you haven't noticed, is a mess right now with its open borders and Islam dominating. And quite frankly, I believe that that was the blueprint for the United States had Kamala succeeded and got in as president. Thank God. This has always been about funneling the middle class's wealth and redistributing it amongst the elite. And that's exactly what we saw these past 4 years. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, how does this tie with this stupid documentary? Just hang with me, I'll get there. And while many of you refuse to acknowledge that Harry and Meghan have anything to do to politics, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, they very much are in the thick of it. Now that USAID's been exposed as the cash cow behind these corrupt NGOs and deep state regime changes and outright chaos that's been going on in the West, now, I'm pretty sure many of you have noticed that Meghan has done a hard pivot in 2025 to where she is no longer focused on a life of service and doing charitable works. She is full on, I need to figure out how to make money and run this business that was literally dropped in her lap to keep her busy for the next couple of years. I honestly believe that that's exactly what is going on here until they are ready to start back up again for the 2028 election. There's still a lot of people behind Meghan and Harry funding this garbage. When you think about all the money that's being wasted into this propaganda, you know, there's no way that Harry and Meghan would have been able to sustain this long. We're talking about 7 years of nonstop saturating the media with a fire hose of Harry and Meghan. Nonstop. There's no way that Harry and Meghan have been paying for this out of their own pocket. One thing is for sure is that this as ever, whatever business is all smoke and mirrors. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up USAID is because I want my viewers to understand the important role that U.S. taxpayer money has been playing here in international media. Before it was exposed, almost $250 million had been going into funding not only journalists, but also international media outlets to push the propaganda that international countries are consuming, like what you're seeing in the UK with all these stupid propaganda pieces about Meghan Markle, doubling down on the bullshit narratives that we all know is a lie. Now, since July 4th has just passed, I think it's appropriate to mention that America's Constitution and free speech is what saved America this time around. We were able to discover what these globalists were doing to us by allowing the non-state controlled voices a voice, allowing them to speak and hearing what they had to say. During the Biden regime, that simply was not possible. And we definitely see that it's no longer possible in the UK because citizens are getting arrested and thrown in jail if it's not in line with the agenda and narrative the government is pushing. I asked the question, how is it that the UK is all for democracy? How can your king say that he supports democracy when this is all happening in his own backyard? I mean, literally. This is why people like Harry and Meghan hate free speech so much, is because they are simply losing. These globalists could not steal another U.S. election and prevent Trump from getting in. If you think back and you look at the timeline and the chaos that this woman has caused ever since she came onto the scene, it just conveniently aligns with the cycle that we had just gone through. So the rise of Harry and Meghan became the downfall of America. And then once Elon Musk had bought over X, we then saw the decline and the downfall of Harry and Meghan, and then the rise of America back again. That's not a coincidence. This is a direct result of Harry and Meghan being involved in the shit that they were involved with. Raise your hand if you think that Harry and Meghan are going to be going on any fake royal tours this year to push their censorship agenda under the guise of online child safety without USAID money. Unless there is another country that's willing to fund this endeavor, I don't see it happening. As I said earlier in this video, that same USAID's been funneling billions to media outlets worldwide, spewing divisive propaganda to brainwash people into these color revolutions and ideology for regime change. This whole Harry and Meghan saga was a part of that garbage. And what we saw is that they crashed and burned. Now, Channel 5 UK is spinning these documentaries to make it look like Meghan is not failing. She really is just trying to discover herself. And her and Harry are now going down two separate paths where Meghan is very much interested in making money and Harry is really still into this life of service.
As the couple appear to be parting ways professionally, it looks like Meghan could be going solo.
Already you can see that Harry and Meghan are on different paths. Service is universal, according to Harry and Meghan, but Meghan, it's all about the money.
So as you can see, the narrative is clearly being set here to get the public accustomed to Harry and Meghan going separate ways, which we already know that they have been doing that for at least the past 2 years. But they are now introducing that into the media, so it's not some surprise when there is some type of announcement.
Oh, he makes another charity appearance in New York alone, while Meghan focuses on As Ever.
You see, they never talk about the children. This would have been the perfect place for her to say, yeah, Harry goes off to these charity events while Meghan stays home and spends time with her children, or spends time with the children as well as run a business. It's very telling that these journalists don't talk about it in any of these so-called documentaries. And I think what's going to piss a lot of people off is we're going to start to see more of these so-called documentaries doing almost a 180 on Meghan. As I said earlier, this particular documentary was going a little bit at Meghan, softly.
She will always be the woman who married into the royal family. That will be her brand. That's it. There is no other. If I'm going to watch a podcast with somebody talking about being a billionaire, you got to have been a billionaire. Or you're a billionaire. She's not. I wouldn't know what Meghan's ultimate goal is.
Here's the deal. USAID's propaganda pipeline for that DEI Marxist nonsense has dried up. Big players like CBS, Viacom, and Paramount, who've been propping Meghan up, are now scrambling to kiss up to the majority since Trump is now back in charge. I think a majority of people can agree with me and say that the climate feels a lot different than what it was the past 4 years. I know I can attest to that, seeing just outside my window how New York City has cleaned up. It certainly is a new dawn and a new day, and the public is fed up with all these media antics, and I think that Paramount recognizes it, and is why they are cranking out all these stupid documentaries in a last-ditch effort to cash in. Because currently, right now, Channel 5, even though owned by Paramount, is set to shift its narrative under David Ellison's leadership as the Skydance deal looms. And I think once that deal is done and Skydance owns Channel 5, bye-bye, Meghan Markle. What I'm frustrated by is all of these documentaries gloss over the real harm that was caused by Harry and Meghan. Meghan didn't act alone. Oh, no, no. She wouldn't be able to do this without the corrupted network that she is tied to. I mean, look at Oprah, look at Tyler Perry, look at all these scumbags that Harry and Meghan choose to keep friends with.
What she craves is real power. Meghan is trying to monetize every bit of fame she's got.
Now, in my opinion, from what I've been seeing in the media being leaked, especially here by Radar Online, is that Meghan and Harry, or at least Meghan, is trying to keep everything together while everything around her seems to be falling apart. According to Radar Online, it appears that there is a lot of chaos behind the scenes with the departing staff, and even Mother Doria has been chiming in and saying that she's just fed up. According to royal biographer Tom Bower, who was dubbed the fabricator-in-chief by Meghan in a 2022 Hollywood Reporter expose about the book Revenge, he says it's become clear that even people who are getting paid lots of money to help Prince Harry and Meghan can't take the chaos anymore. She's been labeled a diva and a narcissist who just doesn't care about anything but herself. So what's going wrong? Tom Bower says there's always drama. It's always something with her. Now, the only reason why I'm giving this Radar Online some air is because Tom Bower is quoted in this. And the things that he's saying here, it makes you think that Meghan could possibly be cracking at this moment. Could it be things are finally starting to catch up with her? I think so. I think there's a lot more to this story than what we are being told. And all that is being presented to us with this as ever, whatever nonsense is all smoke and mirrors. They're trying to figure out, how do we get out of all of this? In my opinion, I think Meghan is miserable because I don't think she saw herself being in the position that she's in today. I think she saw her future way different when she originally started. I think she honestly believed that she was going to come over to the United States and she was going to be adored and loved just like Catherine. It didn't work out that way because so many people saw through the fakeness, the lies, and just the maliciousness of this woman. And she hates the fact that they were not successful in getting rid of voices who speak out about her, like myself and many others. Like, she couldn't shut us all down. And I think that was the biggest challenge that Meghan Markle had. Because had she been successful to shut us all down and all that people saw were the sugary, sweet bullshit, yeah, I think Meghan would be received a bit differently. But because there's so many people who see her for what she is and know that she is not a good person, they're unable to be manipulated, which is ultimately what they are trying to do with the youth. Now you understand why free speech is so important. Can you imagine if she was able to shut us all down and all we had were sugar accounts talking about Meghan Markle? You know, when I look back and I think about that time in the very beginning, the United States knew nothing because the media was tightly controlled here. If you were not on social media, you believed what was coming out in those magazines. And I do think that social media completely changed the game for a lot of these leftists because they no longer could get away with lying to the public. Putting aside the behavior of these two idiots, I think what has been eye-opening for me, at least the last couple of years, is seeing the power of PR and the media. Bottom line is, Harry and Meghan will always have PR involved in telling their so-called truth. I don't think we'll ever find out the real truth as to simple things like how they really met and what was the reason for coming over to the United States, because we definitely weren't told the truth around Megxit. There's so much that we have been told that has been nothing but lies. Will we ever get the full truth? I doubt it. But I do think that the only way that this is going to stop is, either both of them get put away in some mental institution or some prison, or money completely dries up. And I don't see the money drying up. That's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I don't know what the authentic Meghan Markle is. I mean, how would I know? How would anybody know? Harry might not even know. Who knows?
You're such a fraud.